All right, now we are live. Just waiting to see if all the stuff loads in. And awesome. Yes, now we are live. Give me one moment here. All right. Giving it just a moment for people to join in and say hello. Now, I do need to go and review where we last left off, because it has been a long time. It has been exactly 3 weeks since my last live stream. Well, that's the wrong live stream. This is the one I want to review. All right. Where did I say we were going to leave off last time? Looks like checkpoint save is the last one we kind of left off on. Hello! Hey, TG! Hello, someone, and I think you're someone special. I think you're someone special. Taking a look here, TG, you don't happen to remember the last thing we were supposed to cover, do you? Or the last thing we covered and we were going to pick up from there? Oh, I think we just got done with briefings, maybe. Or maybe we just got done with the bees. Okay, so it looks like we covered camera focus. We kind of stopped at checkpoint save, which checkpoint save apparently doesn't do anything. That's okay. All right. Let's get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate our trigger called everything. And we're going to get into this. So it looks like the last thing we covered was camera focus. And we kind of stopped on checkpoint save because it doesn't particularly do anything at this time. So we're going to be starting from here. I believe checkpoint, if the saving feature was allowed to be enabled, I believe it would work. From briefing, yeah. So looking at it, we covered briefing, and I kind of looked back from the recording as well, and it looked like we covered very briefly camera focus. So checkpoint save. I imagine that this would work if we were allowed to actually have saving enabled on player-made scenarios. Currently, it doesn't look like that we can do much. By the way, is my microphone too close or anything? Let me know. Let me know if I'm spitting or chewing in your ear. This is not ASMR time. This is Starship Troopers time. So disable saving set to 0. I took a look at some of the official scenarios, and they all have these set to 0. So there must just be something in the code. So maybe our amazing Nivium can figure something out. But yeah, so checkpoint save does not currently work for player-made scenarios because there are shenanigans afoot. Yeah, you could do checkpoint reached, which I've done that in Bughouse 1. I'll go ahead and show that really quickly here. Actually, I'm going to save that really quick and then go into Bughouse 1. So Bughouse 1, I attempted to use checkpoint save, but it didn't actually do anything. But what I did was I did use it for I did use it for where I set up my own checkpoints for resupply points and different things like that. So, wow, we talked a lot about a feature that doesn't really work right now, at least for the players. So, moving on from checkpoint save, we are going to get started on something that does actually work. So, daytime set. What this does is this allows you to change the lighting in a mission during the mission. So these are the same options that are available here if you wanted to change the look and feel of your mission here. So for example, I have it set to noon. We can have it go to dusk in a certain after a certain point. So I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate this really quick for you guys. So 10 seconds from the start of the scenario, if all goes well, it should change the time of day. All right.
Reinforcements incoming.
Oh, I forgot about that. All right, so right about now, the time of day should change. There it goes. Now, to make it a little more noticeable, I'm going to change this to storm or night. Let's just do that. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no way to make it transition smoothly unless you combined it with something like a dialog box to help hide the transition a little bit. But you can't have it fade into one or the other. It's just an instant snap from what I've seen. So yeah, it just instantly snaps. But that does open the flexibility there, and I'll get away from this so you guys can actually hear me over the game. What that does do is it allows the flexibility of a scenario where for anyone that has played StarCraft 2, and I know one player is actually working on incorporating this, so I'm not going to spoil too much. Yeah, you have to do what you're saying there, someone special. And yes, you are someone special. The way to make it fade is to kind of cycle through the different sets of time. But the way that it could, yeah, StarCraft. For those of you that remember or have played StarCraft 2, there was that one mission with that day-night cycle mechanic where the bugs, the Zerg, were super. Oh, hi, Nivium. I will refer to you as Nivium now. So, so for anyone that's played StarCraft 2, there was that one mission with the day-night cycle mechanic where the Zerg were more active or launched attack waves into you during the night, but they went dormant during the day. So I know one player is already working on a mission like that. But yeah, the only thing I could see doing is doing Dialog Box, which is actually the next thing we're going to cover here. So this is great. So dialog pop-up. Now, again, the UI, little meh right now. It's in beta. It's in open beta, I'll say. So what we have here is this is where that in the scenario pop-up would happen. So we have our title of the pop-up. So title. We have our body area. This can go all the way down, so we can have, let me do all the way down about there. Right about there is when it cuts off. Yeah, that's about where it cuts off as far as number of lines. I don't recall the character limit for this yet. We might have to figure that out here on the stream. Um, and we have right here, we have two boxes here. So these are your boxes that control options. Most of the time you can just do okay, but let's say there's that one scenario. Oh, it does increase the dialog box size. Good to know. Good to know. I just don't know the direct character limit. Um, so the most of the time, if you're doing something informational, just doing okay in either one of these positions would be sufficient. If you leave it blank, it's just going to do okay. But if you recall in that mission, it was earlier in the Koalasha campaign, there was a mission where you could select your starting radio station. So, in fact, does anyone recall what that mission was called? I'm actually going to demonstrate kind of how the developers ended up using that. So I'm going to take a look in scenarios. It was not Whole Patrol. It was Power Struggle. Power Struggle. So let me go ahead and hop in here. And I'm going to open that mission up in the editor. So that way I can show you all what they did. Power Struggle. All right. So now if we take a look at Power Struggle, we can see what the developers did with the dialog box. This is the one where the player would spawn and they would have a choice of 3 radio posts to start at. So they have a section here called Choose Deployment Station, and they have these different triggers here. This is super complex and way over my head, especially since I couldn't get it strictly to work. So yeah, if you don't put an option in, it just says yes, no. Or you can add custom text as well. But this would do, are you sure you want to deploy around the selected comm station? Yes, no. If yes, activate trigger, choose station 10, which spawns a whole bunch of things. It makes the other posts change ownership. And if they click cancel, it's a repeating trigger that clears the selection, disables itself, and then re-enables the choosing, or not the choosing, these actions here. So a very complex way of utilizing dialog boxes. The way I utilized it was in my mission Paradise Lost with the APCs. So once the player was ready to start, so what would happen is these trucks would go along a track and stop at certain points, and then a select box would come up. It happened mostly in the beginning, where a dialog box would kind of explain how the escort mission was going to work, and then you had the option to select OK. So I could not actually get the cancel function going. Hi, Crystal. I could not get the cancel function to actually work too well, but yeah. So that's also a very long discussion about Dialog Box. But so one thing you can do with the Dialog Box is you can select triggers to enable depending on whether they select yes, no, okay. I said okay. So you can do different things. You can have different things enable, different triggers enabled depending on what the player selects in the dialog pop-up. So let's go ahead and clear our trigger here really quick, and let's move on to Dropship Set. This allows you to set how many dropships are available to the player. Let's see here. Dialog selection to null null triggers. Yep. So you can set it to, I'm not going to do anything, or don't do anything, which is what the developers actually did with Power Struggle. Was they created a trigger on um, the player decided not to select this radio post to spawn on, reset everything. So they did some cool stuff with that. So Dropship Set, what this does is, like I said, it allows you to set how many dropships are available to the player at certain points in the mission. You could even set this to equals 0 if you don't want them to have any dropships available, even if they find a way to bring in radio operators or something to that effect. You can enable notifications, which is on by default, and off. You can uncheck it if you don't want to notify. Those geckos had no texture on it. So if we go ahead and take a look again really quick, they are just gray models by Mosquito. Well, not by Mosquito. He actually pulled these out of the game files. But yeah, they unfortunately do not have texture at the time. At this time we still don't know fully how to um, bring new models in and add textures to them. But pretty soon there's going to be another push, I feel, for modding. But yeah. So we talked a little bit about drop ships. It has all the same uh, variables here. You can add additional drop ships. You can subtract drop ships. You can multiply, divide, or make them equal to a certain value. Um, so that's what that is. So we just talked about dropship set, elite ability unlock. So what this does is if I go ahead and select a unit, what this does, and I believe I used it over in Restore Hope, just making sure I'm not crazy. Elite ability unlock should force a certain unit to have a certain ability. Yes. So instead of the player selecting what elite ability, you're correct, Nivium. Dropship and population doesn't check for your current amount. It just adds to the maximum. So, yeah, you are correct there. So with elite ability unlock, what this does is it forces a unit to have an elite ability, regardless of veterancy and regardless of what the player might want. You select and force for a scenario a elite ability unlock. So, for example, if I didn't want players to be able to select tactical command, I can force them to have inspiring command, where this tactical officer is very inspiring and I don't want them to have any other ability. You can do that here with this command. So this allows you to potentially restrict or rail players into a certain way of strategy. All right, so we've talked about that. Event pop-up. Now, what does this do? What does this do? Let's find out together. I don't think it does anything, but we will find out together. No, it does not work. So, event panel does not work. You can couple that with a level check, so they still have to get to level 3. You are absolutely correct. You can have a condition to check for veterancy. Good call there, Nivium. And you're right, Crystal. It's not all that useful unless you're teaching a player, or in the case of Restore Hope, for example, I wanted to incorporate a capture mechanic of sorts as close as we could to the game, and that required that the sniper has to have the sensor flare ability. So rather than trusting and hoping the player won't soft lock themselves, um, I would force the ability onto their sniper units. So that's a use there if you are relying part of the scenario to rely on a certain ability that gets used. You can force a unit to have it so the player doesn't soft lock themselves by selecting a different ability. Or you can do other creative things there. So, event pop-up does not work. So, as we all saw, it caused a wonderful crash. So, all right, moving on here. So, experience set. What this does is it allows you to set the experience amount that the unit has earned, or just straight up give them what level of experience they're at. So if I give these guys 3 levels of experience, they should have what's needed for veterancy. If I go ahead and start this mission here. So that rifle squad on the left should have veterancy. Yep. So that's what experience set does. Or you can give a specific experience. Oh yeah, you can also decrease it because it does have this here. Now, I would probably recommend sticking with maximum of 3. I don't know what would happen if you tried to do a 4 or a 5. All right, good information, Nivium. If I set it to -3, do we want to see what happens here and see if the game crashes? All right, so we'll just leave that alone. All right, so Nivium was saying that the maximum XP needed for level 3 is 10,000. So you can add 10,000 experience, and you can essentially create a customized experience. So you might have units that are 1.5 levels. So, all right. Moving on to feature deployment. Super simple. Oh, you can do negative experience. Ooh, that's very good to know, Nivium. So what Nivium is saying, you can set negative experience so it takes longer for a unit to gain veterancy. That's very good to know. That's very good to know. So really quick, going to talk about deployment. So this allows you to enable or disable unit deployment, which would prevent you from spawning any new units, but you could still reinforce current units, unless you use the feature reinforcing, which allows you to enable or disable reinforcement. And disable transportation. What this does is if you have two landing pads, you can disable transportation from one pad to the other. So you could do all sorts of things. Now, keep in mind, you can also do some of that over here as well. So you can disable production. You can disable reinforcements. And it looks like you can only disable deployment through triggers. You can disable certain types of units that can be deployed, but yeah, awesome. On to the next trigger. It's great having a crowd here this time. Get to talk and learn a lot of things. Those do override. Those do override the other things. So, for example, I have production disabled. If I go back into triggers, in throughout, it was actually one of the videos covered. I think it was the base mechanics video, where we talked about how to override or how to selectively turn on deployment and things like that. So through triggers, we can start a scenario off with no reinforcements, no production, no deployment, and we can re-enable them through triggers. Great question. All right. Folder enable. Anyone that should be making scenarios right now should know what folder enable does, but what this allows you to do is it allows you to select a folder and enable or disable it. So super simple. Not going to cover much there because it's a super common effect to use. And I will cover very briefly that disabling a folder will not allow any triggers that live in that folder activate until the folder itself is turned on. And then let's see here. But by removing those options, you can replace them with abilities, so you'll have more ability slots. Trying to follow their Nivium. You're talking about your Heroes mod. Got it. Got it. Still have not played with it. I still have not played with it, and I feel bad. I'm sorry. All right. So we have Hive Status Set. What this does, it allows you to set the status of a hive. Um, oh, you're correct. That's what you meant. That's what you meant. So if you disable deployment, disable transport, disable reinforcement, it also disables those buttons as well. So if you disable reinforcement, the medic icon will go away. That's what uh, that's what you meant. Got it. All right, so Hive Status Set. What this does, it allows you to set the status of a hive in the middle of a mission. So you could make all sorts of hives inactive, dormant, or unoccupied. And then suddenly, through a seismic event, all the bug hive tunnels have become active. So then they start spawning bugs from them. Um, Has it been confirmed whether or not Terran Command is canon? I don't think it's been uh, official yet, but I would consider it to be canon. Just over a very long time frame, since it took a couple years for the Q bomb to get developed, for the Marauder program to kick up. So there's a lot of um, so the Koalasha campaign takes over the course of multiple years, I believe. Um, but yeah, there's no official timeline yet, and like Nivium said, no one's really said anything, but it kind of follows the same development path, so it could be considered canon. So, all right. So, any questions about Hive Status Set before we move on? And we should be able to have some real-time conversation here. I have the stream delay set very low. I think it's only like a 2-second delay. Um, but yeah, what Hive Status Set does is it allows you to spawn a bunch of unoccupied hives and then make them active later through triggers. All right. We are making a dent. Income set is not a trigger effect that can be used. It's an obsolete one. It has been replaced with population set. So I'm going to jump ahead on the list a little bit here to population bonus. That's what it's called. Population bonus is what supplies or allows players to configure supply and war support and whether or not they get a notification for it. So you will have to set up separate ones for war support and supply. I'm not entirely sure what population points type material is. Probably another population or income that the devs were playing with but never incorporated. All right, so going to jump back up to income. All right, so Minimap Marker. So what this does is it places a marker on the map for you to use. Let's see here. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what material actually does. Um, Maybe they were trying to come up with something like metal or something for like Marauder, trying to have a third resource. But anyways, so we have here Minimap Marker. What this allows you to do is to select a unit or put in a Blackboard name. I would probably say a unit is better for this. Um, and what this does is it places a marker on the map, on the mini map for that unit. Now, what you can do is something pretty tricky or pretty sneaky is you can use a unit called Invisible Carrier. Now this unit has no collision, totally invisible when it's actually playing the game, but you can select it so that way you can have different minimap markers pop in and out of existence by just deleting the unit. I use that in Restore Hope to enable and disable minimap markers across different objectives. So that's what I guess we suddenly got into talking about Invisible Carrier as well. All right. So Minimap Marker allows you to have different types of minimap markers, as the name would suggest. And the unfortunate thing is it does have to be selected onto a unit. But, oh, you can set it to no? Now, the problem with that is if you have multiple objective counters going on, it makes things difficult because it doesn't actually have, and unless I'm totally mistaken, it has no way of setting a value for this one. Let's see here. No, I'm not necessarily planning. It's actually been a long time since I've thought about StarCraft 2. But the one mission that really sticks out to me is this. Yeah, this is the last option, but if I have multiple markers like here, here, and here, and but I want to remove this one, there's no real indicator unless the unit gets killed. There's no real indicator of which one I want to remove. In theory, it would just remove all of them, correct? So if I set this to star, and then I select these 3 units, and then I set a wait condition. Oh, you're right. You are right. You could just, yeah, you're right. You're very right. I took the more complicated path and just removed the unit that it was attached to. I see what you're saying there. I see what you're saying there. Got it. Never mind. I'm just totally crazy. All right. So we covered a little bit about Minimap Marker, and we have here Minimap Ping. So there's 2 types here. There's default, which is just that normal notification ping, and then there's danger, which is just like the bug wave notification. It's the exact same thing, but you get to place where it's at. So you can place it on a unit or a location. Yep, you are correct there, Nivium. Removing the marker instead of the unit allows the ability to reuse the marker or reuse the unit the marker is attached to. Let's see here. Okay, Crystal, that is the dialog pop-up. So we covered that a little earlier, but I can go ahead and come back a little bit. So dialog pop-up, what this does is, this is what you would do for, actually, one thing I can do is I have Power Struggle up. I have Power Struggle in my save folder. So we can kind of walk through quickly what the developers did for this. So we have 3 different text bubbles that pop up, which is allows them to say, da, 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 da. Where is, oh, choose deployment station. So this is the text, and this would prompt the player to select it. And then, so these are the different objectives. And then we have these repeating station. So if this station is selected, dialog pop-up with title, deployment selection. Are you sure you want to deploy around the selected comm station? And then you have the yes or no, or you can input custom text if you wanted to do something special. You can have custom text here for the yes or no, and then you can have different triggers. Start depending on what option the player selects. So if a player selects yes, then the choose station 10 trigger is activated, which then switches the owner of this station to you, changes the owners of the other stations to neutral. It spawns your squad, and it spawns warrior bugs at the old station, at the stations you did not choose. So that's how the developers did it. So if you want to take a look at how the developers did it in a little more depth, you can do that by copying or saving the mission into your scenarios folder, and then you can load it up in the editor, just like I'm doing right here. All right. So that's how we use Dialog Box. Now I'm going to come back in here really quick, and I hope that helped, Crystal. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So we talked a little bit about Minimap ping. This allows you to ping the map on a certain unit or certain location, and you have the option of just the default notification ping or the danger ping. All right. Music layer. This I have no idea what it does. I presume, let's see here. Yeah, no way to do that or that. Yeah, I have no idea what music layer does or music stinger does. Just gonna be honest, I haven't played with those, and sometimes research and development gets to be a headache, but I can tell you that music playlist is um does work, and it's actually how we get to go ahead and incorporate music into the game. Now, we cannot bring in our own music yet. Um, Probably through modding we can eventually, not entirely sure, or at least replacement. But what you can do is you can head over to some of my other videos. Um, let's see here. Yep, so you want to use music playlist, Nivium. And what I was going to say was go use my video where I talk about adding music to your missions. It's one of the longer videos on my channel, but there's a 30-second segment of every music available in the game. And so that way you can get a little sample of it and it includes the actual name of the file that you would put in here. So for example, foothold opening, I should say, would be one song. Um, oh yeah, I have no idea what music layer does either. But yeah, and one thing that is nice is Brickco, he, they, whatever, they created a timestamp list. So the Bammergency, I'm guessing BAM as in like BAM music, these should control the beat. So we can actually go ahead and play with this together right here. Um, yep, unfortunately, there is no smart system that I'm aware of. And all the music change that I've had to do has been through triggers. Um, so let's go ahead and really quick, let's see what foothold opening sounds like between the different BAM urgencies. Yeah, I had to use triggers for every encounter too.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, if I go ahead and get away from the action, we can hear this is
We've got a unit
BAM
under
urgency at regular. Now let's do half beat. Actually, let's do immediate, just so that way we can see how that kind of plays. Yeah, I can increase the game volume. I'll increase the music volume. Maybe about there. All right. So this is going to be BAM urgency immediate.
Reinforcements incoming.
We've got a unit under attack.
Yeah, I have no idea what the BAM urgencies do. This doesn't sound any different. I don't think you guys heard a difference either. I could be wrong. But for right now, BAM urgency doesn't seem to do much. All right, so let's move on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I could use Bug Blitz or Wave. Yeah, let's experiment with that really quick. Let's do Wave. It is just called Wave, right? I don't have the file name in front of me.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, so this is regular.
We've got a unit under attack.
All right. So that was on regular. So let's take a look at immediate.
Reinforcements incoming.
Yeah, I don't really hear a difference there. So it looks like BAM urgency doesn't really do anything, unless you guys heard something different. And Crystal, I saw you had a message and I wasn't able to reply to it. What's up, buddy? Once more? Once more? It's probably super obvious and we'll hear it on the recording. Ooh, something definitely happened there. So that was regular. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. It was just delayed for some reason, and that was on regular. Maybe. Oh, you know what? That's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. Let's actually test that really quick. So we're going to do wave immediate. And we're going to wait. I don't have to do that. We're going to do music layer or music playlist. And we'll say 15 seconds. We're going to have immediate change to foothold opening. So after 15 seconds, we'll see if it has something to do with transitions.
Reinforcements incoming.
So we have wave playing right now.
We've got a unit under attack.
Oh. very good call there, Nivium. It looks like BAM urgency determines how fast the transition will be. So let's do one more, and we'll do, because immediate was pretty quick. Let's see what happens with regular.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, so we've got Wave playing right now.
We've got a unit under attack. We've got a unit under attack.
That seemed a little smoother of a transition to footholds. That did seem a little smoother, unless you guys didn't hear anything, any difference. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So, music layer, have not found a use for it yet. Playlist, we covered quite a lot of it. And Stinger. Don't know what that does anyways. Yeah, no clue there. No clue there, Crystal. So here, covered this in a couple videos. Not going to cover too much since, like I said, cover this over the course of several different videos. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us do use it. We have not covered sound yet. I'm not entirely sure sound even works. I think only briefing works. All my tests thus far with sound has not worked. So, really quickly, covering mutation activate. This allows you to activate bug mutations. So you can turn on chariots, grenadiers, guards, and then you can show or not show a notification of new arachnid threat tiger bugs are in our battlefield. What I will cover really quickly is the ones that don't actually work. Burrow defense, imposter bug, rhinos, ripplers, and sparkers. Oh, do tell, Nivium. We can make broken mutations work by using text modifications. So I'm guessing what you mean is having rhinos spawn something else. For example, if I selected rhinos, do they even have an icon for the mutation? And then while Nivium is typing that, really quickly, mutation disable just simply disables whatever mutations you have active that you select. Oh, that's what you meant. They don't work because they don't have proper text identifications. Right. So the rhino mutation won't work because there's nothing really connected to the rhino since the rhinos don't exist in the game yet. And I'm hoping that they do. Objective enable. This allows you to enable or disable certain objectives and display a UI pop-up. And again, I know a lot of us in the chat are pretty experienced with the editor. So not talking down or doing anything, but just kind of jotting down in a long form format every single condition and effect available in the game or in the editor. Objective status. This allows you to select a objective and make it either open, complete, or failed. Open just means that it's not complete and it's not failed. It's just an open objective. Complete, you completed the objective and it's marked as complete. or it's failed. So the reason why open could be used is you could have a objective where you have to hold control of something, or you have to keep a rocket trooper available at all times, whatever your imagination can think of. So it could be complete, but if you lose access, you lose control of the power station, for example, it could become open again. So that's different ways to use that effect there. Offensive create. So I'm not going to go ahead and reinvent the wheel. I've created, yep, there's no trigger for it, unfortunately, for select special, but I can show you something that can potentially help with that. So I'll get to that in just a moment. Offensive create, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I've got a video covering it, fully dedicated to just that. But and I've even still got the cactuses showing markers. Um, so because offensives can be a very lengthy topic, I'm not going to cover it here right now. Hopefully I didn't lose internet connection. Looks like maybe I might have. Are you all still with me? No drop frames? Maybe I'm just crazy? All right, cool. All right, so if there's no objectives, yeah, I'm probably crazy. If there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and skip offensive create and just defer back to the video that I used or that I previously created. Wow, words. Offensive ID clear doesn't actually work. You can't add it to a trigger. And then offensive stop, what you can do is with an offensive. Does anyone else dislike prisoners and rioters? Yeah, they seem abnormally accurate for some reason. Um, so offensive stop, if you've previously set up a offensive ID, so attack 1, you can immediately stop an offensive by just typing in its offensive ID. So you can use triggers to preemptively stop an offensive. All right, we're actually almost through. Outcome set. So this allows you to set victory or fail conditions. Unfinished, I don't think there's any use for that. To the right here, you can type in custom victory text, and it will dynamically appear. So I've seen a lot of people type in custom victory conditions. I've used or custom victory text. I've used custom victory text. There is kind of a soft character limit because after a while it just kind of goes off the edge of the screen. Really quick, I'm gonna bounce really quick to Crystal and walk through how to create a special unit. Now, I know you know how to create a special unit already, but creating a special unit that arrives later in a mission or doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to do a Psi officer. And I'm going to mark them as special. And I'm going to call them Bobby. So what I can do is I have Bobby. He's part of the, part of the environment faction, which means he won't share any line of sight. He's not a ally. He's not an enemy. The bugs aren't going to attack him. So what we can do is we can skip forward a little bit and do unit redeploy. So I can select Bobby, and I can actually go ahead and use an invisible carrier kind of at this door frame. And I can select that invisible carrier. So what will end up happening, and for anyone that did not know, this little arrow is the facing. Let's see here. If you want to Ultra Uber, you can edit the scenario file and place the unit out of bounds entirely to redeploy it. So it's absolutely not on the map. Yeah, so you can go in and edit the JSON file. I think for most of the time, you're okay with just placing the unit randomly in the mountains or something. So I'm going to wait 5 seconds to redeploy Bobby. I'm going to change owner. What I like about these live streams is as we're going down the list, someone can ask a question and we just kind of go and investigate it really quick. And then unit move, kind of have Bobby move in this direction. All right, so after 5 seconds, Bobby should be teleported over to that invisible carrier and start walking forward and be a special unit.
Reinforcements incoming.
So we should see Bobby any second now. And there we go. I hope that helps, Crystal. I hope that helps with having special units, but them not being quote-unquote spawned yet. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. All right. So we just talked about outcome set. The next thing we have is pause the game. So you can have a trigger pause the game. So we can go ahead and let's see if this actually works. I have no doubt it's actually going to work. So about 5 seconds in, it should pause the game for us. I swear to you, my hands are, it's actually not even the same menu. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So yeah, that trigger works. It's not the smoothest thing. It doesn't have a menu or anything. And if you press escape again, it just brings up the normal pause menu. Population bonus. We covered this a little earlier in this particular live stream. This allows you to set. Oh yeah, you can get that by pressing F11 to hide the UI, and we can actually show that here. Oh nope, F11 is the bug menu. I think it's F9 you're thinking of, because that's what hides the UI. All right. So we covered a little bit of a population bonus a little earlier in the stream. This allows you to set the maximum for, for pause. Yeah, let us know what that is, and I will say it for the recording. All right. So population bonus allows you to um, select pause next to scroll lock. Okay. All right. So yeah, we covered this a little earlier in the live stream. Supply and war sport, you can set the maximum for a particular mission or add additional or take away what the maximum amount of war support and supply is available in a mission. All right. So now prototype command I know does not work. So we're not going to click on it. Random trigger. So what this does is it allows you to randomly select a trigger to enable, just randomly. Now, so you can switch from triggers to folders, so you can enable a folder at random. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you can't really get rid of these once you've selected them. So that's unfortunate. But me and I think it was TG were the ones to initially investigate the random trigger, and it did actually work. Now, what amount does is right now it's set to 1, which means that it is going to pick one of these triggers to randomly activate. If I change this to 2, it is going to randomly select 2 of these triggers. It could select the same trigger twice, potentially. And you can use either enable mode or execute mode. What execute does is regardless of the conditions, or excuse me, not conditions, regardless of whether the trigger is enabled or disabled, it will do it. I don't think I actually, I can show you guys. So I actually have randomness set up here. So what will happen is we have a random trigger that is going to select between these 4 triggers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which when activated is going to spawn a rifle squad on that position. And I've made it that when a player unit is in this zone, it's going to activate one of the random triggers. So let's go ahead and show you what random trigger actually does. I am going to turn the music down just a little bit so that way you guys can hear me in the stream. All right. So for the random trigger, if I move my unit here, which is where I set up that unit near target, it's going to randomly select one of these 4 triggers to activate and spawn another rifle squad. So it chose this one. Now, one thing that Rifle and I did do, which was kind of fun, is I made this a repeating trigger, and I used unit redeploy to move this unit back here. So then I could step into it as many times as I want. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that really quick. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and place that there. So we can see it's randomly selecting a new trigger to enable. It actually even just did this one twice. In all this randomness, it has not chosen this second one yet. Wow, it just does not like that. But as we can see, it's randomly choosing one of these 3 triggers to spawn. Don't entirely know why it's not doing anything with that second trigger. Oh, because it was actually accidentally doubled up. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that one more time. So it should pick one of these at random. So pick that one, pick that one again, pick that one again, pick this one, pick this one again. Now I pick this one. So random trigger does work. All right. So let's get back into our big long showcase. So we covered random. Now we are on to research point set. I think that is what that other resource income was supposed to be, because it does not actually work. It doesn't let you select this, so it's probably a defunct income that it was trying to do, that the developers were trying to do. Resource set is also a defunct and obsolete trigger. And then we have revealers. So this allows you to reveal an area from the shroud, and you can either set a duration to it. So this revealer will go away after 10 seconds of its creation, or you can place an identifier on it. If I can, here we go. So you can place an identifier on it. So revealer 1. And then I can later call that same identity to remove it whenever I want. Now would you look at that? We just covered 2 effects in one. All right. Screenshot. So this is a trigger that I believe the developers have actually used on their official missions. Because one thing that they've done in every single one of their missions is they set up fake fights to happen. So they set up fake fights to happen, certain specific camera moves. But I didn't actually see screenshot in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use screenshot. I'm gonna hide the UI. Now this can go one of 2 ways. It could crash, or it saves a screenshot somewhere on my computer. I don't know where to find it.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, so it took a screenshot, but it doesn't work too well since it was not automatically unhiding my UI. So, interesting. So, a little buggy. Yeah, I don't think it'll save the screenshot either. I don't know. I will check my folders to see if it actually does anything. Shroud reveal. I think it does within a certain area. So let's, this is definitely interesting. Let's go ahead and add shroud there. Let's wait 5 seconds. All right, see ya, TG. The recording should be up later. Have a good night, TG. All right, so we should see the shroud come back in. Let me actually do a spot where I don't have a revealer. I don't even know if this is actually even supposed to work, because there's no radius or anything. So I'm not sure this will actually work, but we should see on the minimap shroud come back in a few seconds if it does work. Yeah, it looks like shroud doesn't really do anything. At least with the location. Let me try shroud cover. And we'll do 2 seconds so we can see a noticeable difference. Actually, I think this should work.
Reinforcements incoming.
Interesting. Reveal shroud. Oh, maybe it's because I'm not using shroud. So let me try reveal. I had reveal actually disabled in my mission options. So it should reveal here any second if the trigger actually works. Button area selection is okay, so I'm going to go ahead and all right, so let's see here. Top one in one corner, other one in the other corner. You must be screaming at me going, just do it right.
Reinforcements incoming.
Oh, there we go. Yep, I was just being a dummy. Thank you, Nivium. All right. So this is how you can use triggers to remove or add shroud at will. And thank you, Nivium, for counteracting my stupidity there. All right. Sound. This is definitely one that I don't think actually works, because there's no way to select an audio type. Yep, have to use a revealer alongside it to get rid of the fog of war. So back onto sound. Unfortunately, sound, unless there's a hidden field somewhere, there's no way to select a specific sound file or anything. So unfortunately, it looks like that this doesn't work unless let me select a unit. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything, it looks like. So for right now, in order to play custom sounds, you have to use a briefing. All right. Technology unlock does not work. And text bubble. So this allows you to add text bubbles to locations, to units. And then it allows you to add identifiers to them. So you can have this officer text box happen or appear above this officer until you select him, for example. So that's something that can be done. And we are almost through here. We're almost through here. Yep, thank you, Nivium. So default is white text, primary is yellow, and secondary is a white box. Thank you, Nivium. So that's what those options are. And then type. This is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. You can have different characters. So let's see what happens if I choose Victor Yarrow on the officer for the type.
Reinforcements incoming.
That doesn't seem to do anything. So the only thing that I can confirm right now is unit and officer type, and then these three colors, which is white text, or white box, location has a box, unit has the box with a thing under it. Okay. All right. And then you could remove text bubbles through triggers by assigning a identifier to the actual text bubble. And then if you set the... No, it did work. It was working. It was just behind the icon. And it wasn't using Victor Yarrow. So I was trying to test the speech type. Oh, you're right. Maybe that's why it didn't work, because of speech. So let's try that one more time. Speaking. And I'm going to do Victor Yarrow since I'm not using that in the briefing. I'm going to wait 4 seconds for my briefing face to go away.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, and then no, didn't really do anything there. Oh well. But yeah, so here is where you can add a identifier for a speech bubble, and then you can call for that same speech or that same identifier to later remove it. Those speech bubbles, text bubbles. Timer set. I have a whole other, I believe I have a whole other video covering that. Let me go make sure I'm not crazy. Yep, I have a whole other video for timers. So I have a whole other in-depth video on timers, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Trigger enable. We've all used trigger enable before. Looks like Nivium had a breakthrough. Speech is interesting for the text bubbles. Makes the bubble gray. I don't think I need to cover trigger enable either. I think that's such a well used trigger that I don't necessarily need to do anything. Put it a location. Okay, so I'm going to put a location there and do speaking. And I'm going to wait 4 seconds.
Reinforcements incoming.
So we should see a speech bubble come up here. Speaking. Okay. Still don't see Hawthorne's face or anything, but that's okay. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel with trigger enable because almost every single one of my videos covers trigger enable. Trigger execute, what this does is it forces a trigger to execute, and you can make it ignore frequency or condition. So quickly to recap, the box that I have hovered right here, and just seeing, oh, I did it again. You guys this whole time have been very patient without me having a cursor. Can't believe I did that to you all again. Capture cursor. I do not know why it did not do that. All right, now this is a much more improved. I did this last live stream too. So thankfully you guys have been hopefully following along up until now. But really quick for execute trigger, ignore trigger frequency. This white box here is the frequency that a trigger will enable. So for example, if I set this to 5, the briefing is going to play. This briefing trigger is going to go through itself 5 times and then never happen again. Or -1, and it's going to happen forever until I disable the trigger. So that's frequency. That's a trigger's frequency. So you can have trigger execute happen. All right, have a good one, Geister, Gster. The recording should be up at the end of the stream. And we're almost done, so you're not going to be missing too much. I'm pretty sure it can be used for timelines. It will not work. You must use enable on timelines. Okay. So what execute is useful for is you want to ignore conditions, you want to ignore frequency, and just have a trigger action. Just do what like a singular purpose, for example. Enable or ignore trigger conditions allows you to ignore the conditions that you might have set for a trigger. So an example use case is you might have a trigger setup that waits 60 seconds using the wait condition before the base explodes. But you have a separate trigger set up where if the player units get to the end before those 60 seconds are up, you can just straight up ignore the condition and execute the trigger without waiting the full 60 seconds. So that's an example of something that you can use. And then we have trigger frequency. So this allows you to modify a trigger's frequency through another trigger. And then we have trigger selector. Not entirely sure what this thing does. Trigger effect 78 does not work. Unit AI team. This allows you to set AI teams for different units that you select. You can even do it for units within a certain area. Now, keep in mind, I have not played at all with AI. It is the one area that, because of the UI here, I have not played with this at all. So, looks like there's different teams you can set up on a per player basis, but I just don't know what I'm doing with AI because and I don't even think it's in the manual. So AI teams is in the manual. So there's a good explanation of it, but I'm going to leave that to the manual there. But yeah. Yeah, it looks like the manual has a good explanation of it. And one thing, just totally off topic from this, one thing that is actually pretty neat about the manual is a couple of my videos have been linked by the developers in the manual, which is really cool. So, all right, continuing on. We have unit combat stance. This allows you to select a unit and make it where they defend defend their ground, hold position, hold fire, or they open fire on everything. So this is how you can set the combat stances for certain units. So this is great if you want a tanker bug to stare down a rifle squad without actually attacking it. Component set. There are two different types of components that you can add to units here. I believe it's two. Yeah, it's two. So the first one is damage resistor, between a strength of 0 all the way to 1. Now, what this is it allows you to prevent a unit from taking any more damage after it has hit a certain threshold. So, if I type in 0.9 on the officer, this officer cannot go below 90% health until I remove it with another trigger. Now, capturable component is I can make things capturable or uncapturable through this trigger. So, for example, I could have I can have unmanned turrets. Let me actually make that look a little nicer. So I could have unmanned turrets here. Normally, these by default have a capture circle under them. What I could do is I could remove the capture component from them. And then, just to show that it works, I'm going to go ahead and launch the scenario. So, if this works, those two turrets should be uncapturable. And that is exactly not what happened. Oh, actually that is what happened. So I cannot capture them, but they still have the capture circle. And I just totally mess up my formation there, and they're getting chewed up by tiger bugs. We're just going to ignore that. So, it does not remove the capture circle, but it does remove the ability to actually capture these. So this is great. You have some flexibility in when you allow a player to capture certain components or certain items. So, unit order advanced move. This allows you to do some enable patrol mode. Interesting. This allows you to. Ooh, this is how you can set up patrols. Some AI patrols. I'm actually really excited about this. Hold on. So I'm gonna have this unit patrol between these 2 points. Okay, super excited. Have not been super excited about a trigger in a while. It's rare that I get these mind-blowing things anymore. So if I take a look, he should be moving. This unit should be moving between 2 different points.
We've got a unit under attack.
And it's not. Okay. Never mind. Looks like patrol mode may not be implemented. Maybe it was the combat stance that was doing it. I'm not going to give up hope. I'm not going to give up hope until this last test.
Reinforcements incoming.
Darn it. Oh well. Well, we can definitely do a pseudo patrol using looping patrols or looping move actions. And then say it takes about 5 seconds. Yeah, you have to use them. You have to manually create the move. So anyways, we have different unit order triggers here. So you can set these units to attack certain units. I wonder if that overrides the AI status. So this is going to be interesting. So this is going to force this unit to attack this unit, but technically the gray player cannot be attacked.
Reinforcements incoming.
Yep, cannot be attacked. But let's say I create a new faction, or what I could do is I can set warrior bug, and chariots, and I can force these soldiers to make the worst tactical decision ever and attack the chariot bugs instead of the warriors. So we can see it's forcing them to attack the chariot bugs instead of the warrior bugs. And whoever that officer is, they are not going to live long enough to reap the consequences of their actions. So that's what unit attack does. So we have some other options here. So we can have, yep, great training. Great training. So we can have units enter a different unit. So let's go ahead and do, ooh, I wonder if this would actually work. I wonder if this is going to work. I'm very curious. I don't think this is actually going to work. Of course, camera did something weird. It's entering. Okay, so
We've got a
unit command
under attack.
enter is used to force a unit to enter a bug hole, for example, or enter an object. I don't think these guys are going to come out the other carrier. I think they're just going to come back out the carrier they went into. So they're going to, or they're just going to blink out of existence. Perfectly logical as well. They just blinked out of existence. Okay, good to know. A way that this could be used is you can have a Viking grounded. Oh, they're undeployed. Interesting. I'm guessing the one way you could have this is you could also have them enter a Viking. Actually, I should have saved because I don't know if that's going to cause things to crash. So just in case. So we're going to see if we can actually use triggers to force units to enter something they normally don't
We've
enter.
got a unit under attack.
Looks like no. Looks like the answer is no. So it looks like the carrier was the specific exception because it's an invisible carrier. But you're right. It did. It didn't cause them to uh, disappear from existence. It just made them undeployed. Yeah, you're probably right. I guess you could do something creative and do um, a Viking an invisible carrier, like right here. And then, of course, need a squad of troopers. And then unit enter into the carrier. I'm going to wait 2 seconds so I actually can survive the camera move.
Reinforcements incoming.
All right, so because the carrier's there,
We've got a
yeah,
unit
so that's how you can pseudo do it. It's super slow compared to the actual transport mechanic, though. All right, we spent a lot of time on that. All right, so we have a couple other unit orders that you can do. Halt, move, transport. Transport allows you to order a unit to either evacuate from a certain pickup pad or transport between pickup pads. So that's how transport very briefly works. We're just on the home stretch. We can do this. Owner switch allows you to change the owner of a specific unit or units within a certain area. And then if you select a unit, you can include the attached units as well. So if this unit had attached units, you could do that. And then you select which player you want them to be owned by later. All right, we're almost done. Unit redeploy, we covered that really quickly earlier. But what you can do is you can select a unit and instantly teleport it to a different location or to a different unit. We have unit reinforce. This allows you, there was a Federatsograd mission in the Kwalasha campaign. This allows you to resupply units, reinforce them from the invisible carriers, for example. Unit remove. This allows you to remove a unit either by instantly getting rid of them, killing them, or undeploying them. And then you can remove them per soldier. So we've got a few more here. So we can force the player to select a unit through a trigger or deselect through a trigger. And we've got the also familiar unit spawn trigger. I'm not going to cover this since we've covered it in other videos. It's a very simple, once you get the hang of it, super simple, almost trivial effect. Unit strength set. What this does, it allows you to set the strength of a unit. So if I set this unit to 50%, half the units should be gone when we load up.
Reinforcements incoming.
Looks like that's not how that actually works. Must have messed something up. Unit strength set. Interesting. I have no idea what unit strength set does. What about you, Nivium? I'll cover some other triggers. Strength does not work in this way. Oh, so strength. So if you put strength to 0 or 1, they won't die. Okay, so it's very similar to the damage component, right? So let's go ahead and do 1 on the officer. And just to really help the demonstration purposes, I'm going to throw them into the field. No? Am I misunderstanding still? The health bar. Oh. So 50%. Got it. I think I'm finally getting what you're saying.
Reinforcements incoming.
Got it. So this officer is now injured, is what you're saying. There we go. That makes more sense. So strength determines the actual health of the individual units. Or the individual unit models, the individual soldiers. Okay. Unit type switch. This is a great one, especially for doing cinematic things like Vikings. So I'm actually going to demonstrate really quick. Actually, I'm not going to place it down on the map because I know it can't be removed except through coding. So I'm going to do landing Viking right here. I'm going to call it Viking. I'm going to call it Viking over here and switch this to the takeoff variant. So what unit type switch does is it switches one unit to a completely different type of unit. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm spawning a landing Viking. I'm going to wait 3 seconds to spawn it. And then 7 seconds later, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to actually do 10 seconds. 10 seconds later, I'm going to turn that landing Viking into a takeoff Viking. So
Reinforcements incoming.
we've got our Viking landing here. Looks like it doesn't actually want to work because of Shroud. I'm going to add a revealer there just in case. All right, so we've got a Viking coming in and landing.
We've got a unit.
And then 10 seconds later, it's going to turn into the takeoff variant. And off it goes. So it changed units there. So the first unit, we spawned in a landing Viking, and then we turned it into a taking off Viking. All right. Just got a few more here to cover. In fact, I can tell you that video player and video recorder, they don't appear to work. It looks like you need to work in conjunction with the dev tools to actually do anything. Video player doesn't really do anything either. So video recorder and video player don't do anything in the actual editor. So we've got 3 more triggers to cover. And for the, let's see here, video recorder does work. And I know it probably does work. From what I heard from the developers, it requires some interesting, like, they said to me that it required them to have something in there. Enable the set of recording, just doesn't actually record. Oh, I think I know what you're saying. So if we go take a look at Power Struggle, we take a look here, we have video recorder, start position, and end position. Okay. So you would have to use an external recorder, but this allows you to set, basically set up a predetermined, a predetermined path for recording. Scroll does not work though. Interesting, because this is a developer map. And they use a scroll speed of 2. I wonder what the default does. Default of 2. Interesting. Let's try it out. I'm going to have it scroll there. I'm going to wait 3 seconds. I'm going to wait 3 seconds so that way it actually gets through my little briefing.
Reinforcements incoming.
And it didn't actually turn off the UI. Maybe my briefing is doing something that it shouldn't do. Maybe the briefing is conflicting with it. No, that doesn't seem to be the issue. So let's do start. Yeah, you're probably right that scroll doesn't work outside of DevTools. So let's see. So using start for a video recorder does automatically remove the UI, does automatically remove the icons. It also removes the mouse, which makes it really hard to click buttons. Yeah, you're right. I have to create another action to actually stop it. All right, so we've covered video recorder. And so we have here unit type unlock. So for example, I have unit types disabled currently in here. What I can do is I can trigger enable. I can trigger enable chemical troopers again through triggers. So that's what unit type unlock does, is it allows you to lock or unlock the ability to for the player to deploy units. Unit weapon switch. I do not know if this actually works. So let's go ahead and see what happens if I switch it to shotguns. We're probably going to get a error message here. So that left squad, if this doesn't crash, should start using shotguns instead. Nope, does not look like that's how that works. Yeah. Yeah, Nivium has not been able to get that to work either through the triggers, but have been able to do that through the FUM tool. All right. Variable set. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. There's an awesome video all about it. It's the bug attack waves one that covers it. So that's the video to look for covering variables. I covered variables in a couple other videos too. Can't remember them off the top of my head. The very, very last item here in the scenario editor, and we've been here for 2 hours. It's almost time to kind of cut it off here, is wiki entry unlock. So let's actually go take a look at another example from the developers. What we have here is wiki. So there's different so what you can do is you can type in the wiki item name, and it will unlock the wiki for that unit. So for example, and the way to do that, we're going to do this together and we're going to do some discovery together, is I'm going to call this one. So first we have to find out what our wiki item name is, and thankfully the developers have helped us out there a little bit. And it looks like they just use the unit system name. So in this case, tactical_officer. So I'm going to do tactical_officer. And I'm going to display the notification. I'm going to wait two seconds for that notification to pop up. And let's go ahead and see what happens. This is actually the very first time that I've used wiki in a scenario, and I'm really curious how it actually plays with the player-made scenario. So 2 seconds in. That does not look like that worked. Let's use one that we do know the name of. Heavy Troopers. Interesting. Let's see if there's something we're missing from Power Struggle. So we have Wiki, Heavy Troopers, interesting. I wonder if they have something disabled or enabled in here. No, something sneaky is going on. Which is interesting because I was really kind of looking to do some fun stuff with one of my missions. But it looks like currently wiki entry unlock does not work in the editor. Unless it just does not work when launching from the editor and it works with the scenario. So let's do our due diligence and try one more time. Yeah, they may have disabled it just like with achievements. Yeah, looks like they disabled it, and it looks like it's programmatic to work with the menu here. All right, so that is every single effect and triggers over the course of 2 separate live streams and over 3.5. And actually, I have to confirm here. Just about 3.5 total hours of streaming to cover every single condition and effect in the editor as it currently is today. And this was awesome, and it was great having a lot of people in this particular live stream because we covered quite a lot, talked about quite a lot, and awesome. So Nivium had something for us to show off at the very end of the video. There's something very special in the editor, and I'm going to follow Nivium's instructions step by step so I don't screw anything up. It's on Discord. All right. Checking Discord. All right. So it looks like Nivium, do I need to install this with FUM really quick? I assume yes. So let me go ahead and just install it normally. So install it. So putting it in my mod folder in FUM, turning on FUM, install mod packs, got a very special and secret mod by Nivium. And I think I need to actually restart the game for this to work. Or do I just need to restart the editor? Okay, restart Terran Command. All right. One moment. The screen might go black for just a second. Hopefully the stream doesn't end. Looks like we are still live. Good, good, good. All right, mod is installed. And restarting Terran Command. All right, so Nivium has a special surprise for us. A very special surprise. And we are back. All right, so create an empty map. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so let's see here. Where is this unit that you're referring to? How do I find this unit? Oh, in triggers. I'm going to go ahead and create a trigger. I'm going to use unit spawned. And then all the way at the end, I think I am lost here just a tad bit. So this APC here, unit on the right. Ooh, wait. Oh, I did not press save files. Hold on. Okay, we're going to have to go through that song and dance. I did not save files. I just installed the mod pack. I ignored the very important instruction whenever installing mods to save. There we go. So don't place the unit down, use triggers. Got it. All right, I'm really interested to see what Nivium has in store for us. And this is the very first, okay, first place a fleet liaison down. Do you want me to place a fleet liaison down as a unit? Or through triggers? Okay. So fleet liaison. And then on death, so when this unit is dead, spawn. Now I'm going to click it really quick because I don't want to necessarily see the name. Oh, it's decoration. And then spawn on the unit. Well, I don't think that would work because do I place it on the do I use select unit or select location? Because wouldn't the unit no longer exist? Use instantly warp. Got it. So on this, all right. Let's see what Nivium has in store for us, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set another trigger to kill this unit. Oh, sensor array. So, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a init, and I'm just going to do a revealer. And then I'm going to wait 5 seconds. All right. Now, Nivium, before I click play, have I done anything wrong? Put it under it? Okay. Okay. All right. Let's give it a play. Oh, looks like I might have misinterpreted your instructions again. But we'll see. Ooh, I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and interpret here really quick that Nivium has found a way to spawn decorations as units. Now, basically, what this means is you can spawn what Nivium's done. Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, I'm going to do theory crafting really quick. Hold on. So, what you can do is some very incredible things. Um, so with this mod installed, what you can do is you can like have a revealer here, show people having a grand old time, and when the revealer goes away, you can have a trigger spawn all the dead bodies, so it looks like they just suddenly died and now they're dead. So that's one potential use for this future mod that we just got a first peek of here. So um oh, that's very exciting. That is very exciting, Nivium, and thank you for allowing us to see it here on my channel. Anything you want me to say really quick about this, or something that you're excited about it with? Including changing the terrain height with triggers. Oh, I cannot wait to play your scenario. I cannot wait to play your scenario. So everyone, stay tuned and keep an eye out for the scenario release channel for Nivium's debut scenario with heavily incorporated mods that they're gonna do some awesome stuff. And man, I'm excited. You have done a fantastic job, and that has unlocked a lot of potential for this community. So, with that all said, everyone, you have a wonderful rest of your night, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching this, and whenever you're watching this. And it's been really, really fun going through every single effect and condition in these live streams with you all, as well as helping with some of your use cases and troubleshooting them live to help build your scenarios. And I do plan on doing some live streams in the future, like me putting missions together. Um, but keep an eye out. I will be doing more intermediate and then later advanced tutorials on the scenario editor. So I'm not done making videos for the scenario editor yet, but that's going to be for another time. It's time to get back to making some more missions. So, again, everyone, have a wonderful time where